Hello, this is seemownay. My name is Simone. I am from Germany, currently living in the Bay Area, and I decided to start a yarn talk because I am not only a scrapbooker, journaler, and what else? Paper crafter, planner person. Oh, I almost forgot the thing I started with on YouTube. But I am also creative in so many other ways. Right now, my heart burns for knitting, and so I decided I would love to share with you all. YouTube is my preferred medium at the moment, and so why not just add another YouTube series to my channel? And that's the first one. I hope you enjoy this video if you are a paper crafter, and if you are a knitter and just stumbled across. Hi, I am seemownay, S-E-E-M-O-W-N-A-Y on Instagram. I also have a Ravelry page as seemownay. I have had this for years, but never really used it very much. But right now I am trying to be up to date on that. And I think what I want to do right now is show you my first finished object of 2019, then show you what I'm working on right now, and then talk about my plans for knitting in when I'm done with this video. And then I would love to tell you how I came upon this third season of knitting. That's how I started to call it. So my first finished object is actually a pair of socks. This one right here. I started it in the spring of 2018, and when I was on spring break with my kids, my husband had to stay at home, and we went away to the beach. It was super cold. I was craving socks, and I was bored to death because I was sitting there wrapped in a blanket. My kids were playing and enjoying the beach, keeping themselves warm, and I didn't have anything to do. So the first afternoon after we went to the beach, I decided to Google if there was a yarn store where we spent our vacation, and yes, there were actually two, so I decided to check out one of them. I went in there and I was floored by the prices of the beautiful indie yarn dyers. I did not go that route because I didn't trust myself to finish my socks, and I went with the cheapest sock yarn that they had. It is actually from the, let me check my journal, the West Yorkshire Spinners, and I think they only had this colorway left. It wasn't my first choice, but now I think it looks like Gryffindor socks. The red and the yellow together with the brown and grays really kind of look like Harry Potter Gryffindor to me. So I didn't come with knitting needles. They are not part of my everyday carry. So I also purchased knitting needles that were way too big. I haven't knit in years. I didn't remember what I needed, and so I just looked at the sizes. I was also confused by the American way of grading needles compared to the European or German way, and so I was like, those look okay. I didn't even think to remember to look at the wrapper, which, oh no, it says 3.25 millimeters. I went down. So after I started I don't even know the terminology. This is what an avid knitter I am. The cuff of the sock After I had finished that, I moved the whole project onto different needles to be able to knit this, the foot. So I started casting on the first one, and I think I actually even opened them all up again once I got home. But I had something to do, and knitting socks is kind of the segue that I started knitting, because my grandma used to knit socks for me, and she knit so many for me, and I was able to savor them for a long time after she died. But eventually all socks die, and I needed more because I really love wearing knit socks, hand knit socks, every day. In the summer, in the winter, it doesn't matter. And so I needed more. So that's how I started knitting my own socks. Back to the finished project. I started knitting them on double pointed needles, and then once I was maybe this far into the cuff on both socks, I moved them over to a circular needle and knit the rest of the socks as 2-at-a-time socks. I tried to adapt a German short row heel tutorial on YouTube to 2-at-a-time socks, and it worked with this yarn, but I have a project that I'm going to frog where I used a needle size that was too small and the heel didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. It is also very short here, so I think I will try another heel in my future socks. I finished this pair last week, and I'm super happy that I actually made one. It took me almost a year, but I'm done. And I'm making a yarn talk because of this pair of socks, and so I'm super happy about that. I'm going to frog my other working project. So I'm going to move on now because that's the only finished object I have. It's the only finished knit object in a long time, but it is one. My works in progress right now are, let me show you the one that I'm going to frog, this here. This is a variegated yarn, I think that's what you say, from Opal in my second season of knitting. Before I even started knitting the socks, I had a subscription to Opal. Opal, do you say Opal in English? I say Opal. Opal Wolle. I had a subscription and I received, I think, 2 packages full of sock yarn, and I still have like almost all of them in my stash. And that is a 4-ply Opal sock yarn, and it stripes like this. I knit those on US 1 needles, and they are the gauge that and the fabric that I'm creating with those is way too dense. The cuff is way too short for me. It is too narrow, even though it is the 64 stitches that I usually cast on with all of my other socks that I have knit before. So something is wrong, and the heel is way too narrow, it doesn't work. And so I decided, instead of plucking through and finishing this, I'm going to just discard it, which I guess I could do on camera, right? So let me just take this one off and this one off, and in November, or actually after my friend Tina took me along to a knitting class at Monarch Knitting in Pacific Grove, where I didn't attend the class, but I heard the beginning of the class where Marie Green from Olive Knits talked about knitting garments. I was intrigued, and I talked to her on our drive back to my friend, not Marie. She didn't drive in the car with me. I talked to Tina, my friend, and we decided that we would knit a sweater by top down, the Stillwater sweater from Marie, together, because I had another set of yarn in my stash from years ago when I wanted to knit a different project I never started. But this is Drops Lima. I don't know where this yarn originates. The website you can purchase this from is garnstudio.com. I will definitely include links to all the things that I'm mentioning in the description box below, just so if you are interested, you can check them out. I purchased that at Lanade. It's a German online shop. They don't ship to the States. So I had like 8 or 9 balls of yarn, which were too little for this sweater. What I decided to do is just repurchase the same colorway, and I will show the difference in the yarn in a sec, and have it shipped to my mom and have her ship it to me. That way I could use up the yarn that I had in my stash. And this is how far I am right now. I think I'm on row, let me check. I finished row 29. I'm right after, I think, the 3rd check-in for stitches. I really like that she includes a check-in for your stitches every, like this is row 30 now, and we had already had 3 check-ins, so that's awesome. I started this twice because I have never heard of the cast on that was recommended, so I had to practice that, and we cast on February 15th, and today again is March 20th, and this is how far I got. I am not someone who wants to be obsessed and be obsessively knitting. I want this to be my hobby, and I want to enjoy it. This is part of my history. I am someone who is very black and white, who either does something really obsessively or not at all. It branches out into various different areas in my life, but what I have realized about the way I have been approaching hobbies is that it is not very healthy for me to do those obsessively. So my goal for this sweater is not to knit it up as fast as possible, but to knit it and enjoy the process. Which means my 2019 goal for knitting is finish this sweater. If I can finish it before the end of the year, that's awesome. If not, that's okay too. I'm giving myself almost a whole year to knit my very first garment for myself. And I don't know how well these things show up on camera. I will definitely film some B-roll footage, as they call it, and show you the difference. My first ball of yarn that I started and cast on with was from the old yarn from, I guess, almost 9 years ago, and it broke in various different places. It is also very, 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 again, I don't know the terminology, maybe I learn throughout the time when my knitting career is even further, whatever. Stop talking, Simone. It is very fluffy. It has a lot of build up, which this doesn't. And I think I started the second ball of yarn. Let me see if I can, where is it? Okay. Oh, right here. So here I started the second ball of yarn, and I decided, since I didn't have, I don't want the colors to be maybe more greenish and then more bluish. I decided to swap. Every time I run out of yarn, I will use the different dye lots. They are from different dye lots. I purchased the same color almost 9 years later, but for that, they are not very different. I can see, when I look very closely, I feel like this is a little bit more green. It has a different texture. It has more of those fluffy yarns poking up, and this is a little bit more blue, a little bit darker. I'm really curious to see what it looks like when I add another ball of yarn from the old stash to this. But so far I'm totally okay with the different, almost unnoticeable color difference in the different dye lots. I'm learning a lot with this, but I'm super enjoying it, and I cannot wait until this has reached a stage where I can actually try it on and see how it looks. Yeah, so that's my Stillwater cardigan in Drops Lima. And since I told you before, I'm a jack of all trades. I love to make my own project bags. I used to sew like a maniac and lost my love for sewing. That's why I want to enjoy my knitting hobby and not do the same thing here. But I recently found my love again and decided to use this piece of fabric that my friend Anne embroidered for me. This is her design, and she embroidered it for me and gave it to me because I don't have an embroidery machine. 5 years ago, I always hoarded it, and I decided it is time to use all of those precious things. I made an open wide zipper bag by Noodlehead. Link to the free tutorial in the description box below. What I completely messed up was I made the square, cut the square on the bottom out way too big, and now this bag is a lot smaller than I had intended it to be, but it's okay, it's still usable. I added this awesome thing to the back, and what I love about these pouches, now that I can finally sew them, is that they open up wide, and this is the lining. So I love sewing things that I can actually use, and so making project bags makes me happy. And what I'm thinking about is to maybe I should do that at the end of the video. Stay tuned for a giveaway at the end of the video, because I really like sewing, but I don't like to make more than I can use, and so I need to rotate the project bags out. And what I'm decided to do is just do a giveaway every now and then, so I can make another project bag for myself. So here's the one that I'm putting this in for now. I think it will be way too small once this has been growing a bit, but I can always make more, right? The other project I am working on is the 2nd Avenue shawl wrap. 2nd Avenue wrap by, yeah, this is how prepared I am. This is the pattern by Amy Miller. I saw this on my friend Babette Marie's Instagram, and I loved it, and I googled it, and I talked to my friend Tina about it, who also knit it, and so I decided to just purchase yarn This is Madeline Tosh Merino Light. And I don't have the other skeins. Not prepared. Adding B-roll footage. And this is the progress that I have made. I love the pattern so far. I love the colors that I chose. And I like that it is very mindless knitting. It is great for sitting at baseball games and just knitting right now. There's other different pattern? Stitches? Things that you knit into the wrap coming later on, but for now it's just straight up stockinette stitch, and I know how to do that. Maybe it's also interesting to know that I am a continental knitter, so I hold my yarn, my working yarn, on the left hand, and I'm knitting like this. And so yeah, that's my Second Avenue wrap. Not very far along, but again, as this is not one of my yearly goals, I am just using this whenever I have the time and I don't want to knit on my cardigan. I have this in this project bag. This is a wheat bra bag. Link to the pattern in the description box below. I love that it doesn't have a zipper. It's super easy to make. I purchased the fabric with my friend Katarina, who visited me for my birthday 2 years ago. We purchased it at a fabric store, and I never made anything with it, and I'm so happy that I finally had the courage to start using the things that I'm hoarding. I love this one, and I love that the color pop. I love this here. This is the lining, and yep, that's this. So that is actually all of my works in progress, because I have just finished this pair of socks. So I want to have 4 different projects at all times: 2 pairs of socks, the wrap, and the cardigan. And I don't really know what I'm going to do once I finish with the wrap, because I guess it's gonna take a long time. So what am I going to talk about next? The things that I want to start on working now. When I decided to knit more, somehow YouTube always knows what I love and what I don't love, and so they suggested knitting podcasts on YouTube, and so I started watching, and I found the Woolen Forest podcast, and I watched this one. I watched one of those previous episodes, several, started to add those to my watch later list, and she shared the Milky chai socks, and they are by Danielle Jorge. I don't know if you pronounce it that way. This is how I would pronounce it as a German, and since it's a black and white print, it is really hard to see. They look like they are doable for me, and they are not just boring some kind of rib cuff and stockinette stitch. It is a little bit more than that, and I like that it is a bit more challenging. What I also like is that there is a just general heel flap included, and the pattern for the heel flap looks different. I don't know what to call it. It looked very interesting, and I thought I should try that. I'm planning on using this yarn. It looks very chai-y to me. This is an online yarn. I don't know when and where I purchased. I definitely purchased it in Germany. It is a self-striping yarn. It's super sock Indian color, and this is what it looks like. And yeah, I need to, there's some kind of cast on that I don't know right now. Oh yeah, the German traditional very stretchy cast on, and I watched YouTube tutorials on that, and I started casting on, but this is like 3 stitches, so I really need to sit down, take the time to cast on the socks. I plan on casting on double pointed needles and then transferring them over to 2 at a time circular needle once I cast them on and knit about 1 inch or so. I'm keeping those in this project bag, and this is also the one that I'm giving away. It is the We Bra Bag pattern. There is this roses on the outside. It has this I don't know what you say, it's a check pattern, and there's these flowers on the inside, and they have this awesome mushroom drawstring to close it. So that is the next project that the next pair of socks that I'm going to cast on. And then, since I'm frogging this pair, I decided not to use this yarn for 2 reasons. I like it, but I'm not in love with it. And so I just thought I would rewind the balls and put it into my stash and wait until I'm more excited about the colorway. And also because I want to try my hand at, is it toe up? Yes, toe up socks. My friend Tina told me to try the Stumptown socks from Shannon Squire Designs. She's Shannon SQ on Instagram, and I'm going to use this yarn. This is calling my name a lot more, and unfortunately I don't know what yarn this is. I don't have the button band for this anymore, the belly. I purchased this when my local yarn shop back in Germany closed, and they had a lot of yarn on sale, and the only yarn that I know how to use and what to do with is sock yarn. So I just went through their boxes full of sock yarn and purchased 4 or 5 different sock yarn skeins, which I didn't really need because I had the Opal Sockenwolle back home, the huge stash. And I keep those in this We Bra bag. I made those 2 at the same time, and that's why it's totally okay for me to give this one away, because it's almost the exact same colors and patterns on the front and the inside. But I like this one a teeny tiny bit more, so I'm totally okay with giving this away. So yes, Stumptown socks, Milky chai socks, and I'm almost done now. So I showed you all the things that I'm working on right now, and now I want to share with you my socks. I told you before that my socks, that's how I started knitting. That's the only thing I really know how to knit. Everything else I need YouTube tutorials, and there's so many tutorials on YouTube, so many awesome teachers out there sharing their knowledge for free. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I cannot tell you how amazing it is to sit down and read a really strange letter number combination and just put it into the search bar on YouTube and finding a tutorial that will tell me exactly what I have to do. I love learning like this and love being challenged to find out new things. if you look at my Ravelry page, that's how I was so amazed at this. There is a tab that is called Stash. I have never really kept this one up. There's only one photo in there, and it is a photo of the 100 Wasser skein from Opal Wolle, and this one actually. And I loved the text that was written underneath. It said that I saw this at my local yarn store, but I didn't purchase it because I didn't know if I would finish a pair of socks. That is what ignited my second knitting season, is this, I have the other one here, ball of yarn. I really was loving the color scheme, and so I purchased a different, cheaper sock yarn at that day and started knitting. And once I was able to see that I was really working my way and I was able to knit it, then I went ahead and purchased this yarn and started knitting those socks. I don't think I have knit like dozens of socks. I think my very first pair of socks, actually I only knit one sock. It's this one, this pair right here, and again, it's the wool, the product that inspired the knitting. I purchased the yarn, I started knitting, and then I didn't want to finish the second sock. So I'm super happy that I found the 2 at a time socks. I'm never going back to doing anything else but this, because I'm suffering deeply, severely from single sock syndrome. So those were my very first pairs of socks that I knit, and then I just occasionally started knitting socks again. I'm not big on watching YouTube, and I'm not a big counter, and that's what the problem with the heel flap was. But I think that now that I'm more responsible, older, haha, maybe I can keep track of the counting stuff more and be happier with the heel flap, because that's actually what I like more, is a taller heel. And the German short row heel, or in German we call it Boomerangferse, has very short heel right here, and if you're not very careful like me, you create holes. And I actually found a German tutorial that would omit the holes, and that's the newest pair. Let me show you what this looks like right here. And here it worked. It just didn't really turn out as nice as I wanted it to be, and so I'm really curious to see how the heel flap socks work. And I'm very amazed at the different kinds of heels that are out there, so I guess I have a lot to work on now. I decided to, so that is like my newest pair of socks. This is one of the first ones that I made in my second knitting season, and this one I finished both of those actually. I think this is, I'll try and film B-roll footage for those things, is another yarn that I made socks with, but I had to throw those out already. And then this pair of socks is one that recently is a bit much, because I already knit them up when I still lived in Germany, but those are the newest ones that I made. And those are also the Opal Sockenwolle from the sock wool subscription that I had. So stupid, right? I'm like the slowest knitter on earth, I have knit 3 pairs of socks in my life, but I'm subscribing to a sock yarn subscription where you receive like 10 to 12 pairs, balls of yarn, or skeins, is that what you say? Oh my gosh. I'm 42 now, and what I'm trying to get to, I'm also doing a no spend for Lent, and I think I'm going to continue that thereafter, because it's actually really surprisingly liberating to not spend any money. What I decided to do is to use what I have, and also only purchase when I have the need for it. So sock yarns I probably won't be purchasing for another 2 or 3 years, which is hard because there's so many awesome skeins out there and indie dyers, and I would love to support them. And it's also great, like when you're on vacation and you can check out a yarn store and you want to purchase something to support them. A skein of sock yarn is awesome. But this lady has 18 skeins of sock yarn in her drawer. So that's my knitting life in a nutshell. I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to answer your questions. What are you working on right now? And I hope to be back soon. I'm trying or thinking about doing this monthly. It depends on how much I get done every month. If I'm like this much further on all of my projects, I probably won't do it monthly. Let's just see how this goes. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support and encouragement. It really means the world to me when you comment. I will see you soon. Until then, bye.